Ta-da!
Working all day with my mind on fire, I can't stop thinking of you. Walking all day with my mind on fire, that's what I gotta do. I can't stop thinking of you.
It's kind of crazy to me that I recorded the stuff for the end of the effing world here. Recording has always been a sort of miraculous thing to me anyway. It's always been one of my favourite things. But the whole idea that you can actually, do it in your spare room, I still can't kind of get over how amazing that is actually. Well, yeah, the end of the effing world. It starts out with this boy who seems like a kind of a dispassionate and cruel kind of a lad, teenager, schoolboy. And he meets this girl who seems totally despondent as well. They both have home lives that they're not particularly happy with. And they go on a sort of a crazy road trip with many twists and turns, many dark moments, many comic moments, many touching moments. And so off they go. But I wasn't really asked to do anything specific to start with, but I was kind of inspired, so I did make a few pieces just on my own anyway, before we had any proper meetings. And a lot of it was quite on Graham Coxon-like, I suppose, which was a mistake because they wanted to hire me because it'd be Graham Coxon-ish, not so it'd be sounds like something else. So after we had a meeting, I got back on track, and of course, in TV shows and things like that, they always put a temporary song in where they want some music, and that's the sort of atmosphere they're trying to get across. So I would be inspired by whatever sound that had or whatever emotion that had. I quite liked working to a brief, so maybe they'd had a scene where they wanted something a bit sad and acoustic. Then I'd spend maybe 1 or 2 days just writing something around that, sort of 4 or 5 or 6 songs that could fit that bill, but they were all slightly varying. Walking All Day wasn't really a brief, it just sort of came out of watching the episode. I think where it appears in the programme is when they're walking through some woods. And it's kind of a nice image. I don't think James has got a top on for some reason. I can't remember why he hasn't. But they've been sort of failing to have any kind of a relationship or any kind of chemistry as far as I can see. But I was trying to get a little further into the sort of emotional blockage going on there. I kind of like that sort of country blues, wouldn't it be? A sort of genre, and that sort of finger picking. It's very fertile ground for melody. You know, a topless lad in a pair of jeans in the woods, for me, it's a bit like, it could be, Deliverance kind of stuff. So some kind of country folk thing that may have a slight American influence. The lyrics would have been improvised. I would have started singing something to get some sort of melody, and it quite quickly became apparent that it was going to be walking all day, it was going to be kind of repetitive, and then there was going to be some part of their body that was going to be on fire, and there was going to be a reason for that. I wanted it to be sort of jaunty. I did have a couple of goes actually. There is a really fast version of it which isn't very good and didn't really develop, so it didn't have middle eight and solo sections and all of those sorts of things. So I wanted it to have a good sort of shape and a good build. And that for me is what's interesting about songs, is what happens on the journey through the song. It's just verse, chorus, and then it ends. It's odd, I like songs to have a journey and a dynamic. I didn't want everything to get too heavy and serious because as an English person, I can't sit in that world for too long without making a joke, so you've got to sort of lighten it up a bit. So I would always start with acoustic guitar, and I'd just be playing around a little chord sequence as simple as I can. And then I'd record that. Condenser mics that far away from, what do they say, 12th, 14th fret, where the neck meets the body. I suppose I just went with that, really. I really wanted that sort of old-fashioned, sort of, they call it mixing bowl, sort of slight swingy drums. And I can't really do that here, so I had a cajon down there. And I'd never mic'd a cajon before, and I don't even know if I'm saying it right. But that one has a bit of a boom to it, so that's, I don't know, I suppose that's about that far away from the back. I kind of like old-fashioned recordings, not at all perfect, quite loose. Although I was working to a sort of a metronome, I was loosely keeping time. But I don't really know how to play a cajon, so I just did my best, like, you know. And then I kind of wanted a sort of an upright kind of bass sort of sound. So I used an old Fender 6 bass, which is 6 strings. And that's from the 60s. I don't know whether the strings have been actually changed. They were old when I bought the guitar, the strings, so they may not have been changed for 30 years. So pretty dead old strings. You know, that kind of T-chest bass to get that sort of atmosphere, you know, and there's the tambourine and just things coming in, being introduced after each sort of verse, something new coming in, drums coming in, then a maracas coming in, and also there's the vocal.
Walking all day with my mouth on fire, trying to get talking to you. Walking all day with my mouth on fire, that's what I've gotta do. Trying to get talking to you.
I wanted there to be parts that were girl and boy singing, obviously, because it was a kind of about this relationship that was starting or maybe not starting. You know, I don't have a backing vocalist sort of lounging around all the time, so on most of the songs, and this one included, I just pitched my vocal up to get a girlish kind of vocal.
Murder me, make me happy, talk to me, it's so crappy.
The one that went out on the TV show as you watch it is the one before I got a proper female backing vocalist on it. But I think with the bit of reverb and balancing in, you know, you don't really notice it. It just sounds like a girl.
Over me, what's this power? Gonna tell you once more.
And then I wanted to introduce a few slide. I'm not very good at slide guitar either, and none of the guitars that I use are particularly set up for it. So there's a lot of clonking, you know. So I build it with different sort of slide lead parts until it just sort of finishes in, you know, I think quite a clumsy way, you know. So it's kind of a pretty rough, woozy recording, but I guess it has its sort of charm. I like that imperfection of it because I was recording it quite quickly. It's almost as if there are 4 or 5 blokes who are playing it live because they're not exactly tight all the time. They're following each other. I'm not a great engineer. I'm a bit EQ phobic and all the rest of it, but I like a bit of compression and I like a little bit of a spring reverb, you know, to make it sound a bit old. And a bit of touch of that on everything, really. And that was it. And if it sounded okay, that would be it. So when I was like sending all the audio files off, and you know, I like that thing of anticipating the reply to the email, you know. Yeah, this is good, but, or, you know, or, great, but can you do another one? Or, you know, something like that. Or this was just, wow, you know, this is fantastic. So it's great to get the sort of feedback and encouragement. I was lucky because the people who worked on it were always encouraging, you know, and I did send them some pretty mad stuff. But I thought if I sent them some stuff that they really liked, I can afford to send them something that was really ridiculous, that was a sort of a risk, you know, and they'd just ignore it. So a few mad songs didn't make it. But I definitely would like to carry on learning more about soundtracks, do some more soundtracks. Definitely stay excited about recording and anything that helps getting ideas musically onto something that you can play back and listen to. So I'm up for more, yeah.